We're back, I guess. um, I was sorting through that. I had a thought about some of the language. Like, one way to put it, that I've always been frustrated with, not just language, but anything in general. It's when you feel like you know you should be able to do something, but you can't. Um, it's like I can read these words, I can kind of pronounce it, but I'm not there. I'm not able to get past it, and it's frustrating. Of course, it's only natural. I've never done some of this stuff before, but still, it's just I feel like I should be able to do it, yet I can't. Why not? What am I doing wrong? What could I do different to change that? And so I think that's just kind of the passive default feeling I have when I'm trying to grapple something new. Anywho, this is Umineko Nakakoto Nichiru, Nocturne of Truth and Illusions. And we left off in the middle of the mystery. How would you pronounce that? Should I just pronounce it question mark, question mark, question mark? Or just pronounce it Just, it's like, yeah, you can see it's a thing, but you can't ever pronounce those words. Or like in like old video games where they have like random symbols and letters for words, like I can't pronounce that. But we left off in a memory or so of Beatrice in the Golden Land, from the perspective of Battler, who has been impaled by the red truth of Dillinor, who we're talking with about the rules of Nox, or Nox's Decalogue or so, about people being able to understand and have proof that it's solvable or not before they'll even try. And then the detective saying, aha, I found it, which should be, you now have everything you need to know to solve this. Yeah, that's right. Regalia and Eleanor have given me so many hints, and yet I barely thought about it at all. Well, you kind of gave us a lot of hints after the point we knew we needed to do things, but that's just me complaining. By now, it's all too late. First answer story out of 4, after all. Yeah. By now, it's all too late. Let me think. Now that everything is too late already and I've got an endless amount of time on my hands, let me think. One more time. Let me think about the red truth Regalia gave me, and the crutch, the Decalogue that Dillinor lent me. With the red truth, Regalia guaranteed that at the very least, Beato left enough room in this tale for me to achieve victory. That red truth guarantee will once again give me the power to start my heart beating. And there's the crutch of the Decalogue, which Dillinor lent me. Dillinor herself warned me in the beginning that the Decalogue isn't so almighty that it can solve all riddles. However, she said something about how it could be used as a method to solve, no, take on riddles. Let me try it. Though there's no guarantee that this tale is mystery or fantasy, let me believe that I'll definitely be able to solve it. That it is a solvable tale, a mystery, and let me take it on one last time. When I came to, I was suddenly in that strange tea room where I'd often argued furiously with Beato from across that table. Of course, Beato was nowhere to be found. It was just me, isolated and alone. That's okay. Even so, I won't stop thinking. Okay then. What were Nox's commandments again? I'm sure Dillinor explained most of them when slamming me with them. Of course, even I recalled them vaguely. What was the first one again? Allow me to speak. Nox is first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early parts of the story. When I muttered about what the first one was, as if answering my question, Dillinore's subordinate appeared. Without bothering with an unnecessary hello, she told me nothing more or less than what I wanted to know. Yeah, that's it. The first. The culprit has to be one of the people mentioned in the early part of the story. In other words, the culprit must have already appeared. As early as the first game? True, that's the most basic of basics in the mystery genre. A classic assumption. A classic assumption? Have I really been keeping to that assumption? With each new game, the number of people on this tale keeps increasing. That violates the closed circuit rule. By that point, everything gets screwed up. Did I give up on the inside, thinking that the true culprit or mastermind must not have shown up yet, and that reasoning was therefore useless? If I read this tale as a fantasy, new characters keep showing up, to the point where even having demon kings or gods or creators appear wouldn't be strange at all. Even if the true mastermind first appeared in one of the last episodes, I'd have to accept it. However, if I read it as a mystery, and stick with that conviction, then there's no need to worry at all about anyone who shows up later. Because Nox's verse clearly states that it's impossible for the culprit to be anyone who appears later on in the story. Of course, there's also what Dillinor and Virgilia said. There's no guarantee that this tale follows the rules of the Decalogue. So of course, I can't deny the possibility that the culprit first appeared in the second game or later. However, this is one way of thinking. This time, I'll forget about the Devil's Fruit completely, and try to borrow the power of the Decalogue in my thinking. After all, I've already said myself that I won't be able to reach the truth without a multi-angled outlook. In that case, that means the culprit in all these repeating games is one of the 18. In the very beginning, there was no need for an illusion of a 19th person. Even the first of Nox's commandments denies the existence of an unknown person known as the Witch from the very start. If I had followed that in the truest sense, I might not have suffered so miserably in the second game. And Nox's second? Allow me to speak. Nox's second. It is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. Dilinor's other subordinate appeared without a sound, and gave me an answer to my question. That's right. A detective can't go around using magic. So, if this is a fair battle, does that mean that, like the detective, the culprit also isn't allowed to use magic? Allow me to speak. Know that you are free to interpret it as you please. Yeah, that's right. Sure, I'll interpret it my way. If this game is a battle between me and Beato, then because this tale is solvable, no elements will appear that make it impossible to solve. In other words, things like magic mustn't appear. When they do appear, I shouldn't suspect that the mystery element is breaking down, but I should instead question why it was shown, and suspect the witnesses and observers. That's right. That was Beato's greatest weapon in the second game. Depictions of magic which couldn't exist in a mystery. By showing me that, she forced me to think that this tale wasn't a mystery, and therefore the reasoning was impossible. So I surrendered. However, if I had believed unshakably that it was a mystery, it would have been completely obvious to doubt the witnesses who claimed to have seen magic. Also, at the end of the first game, it was revealed that this tale was passed on to people in the future by that message bottle. Someone had written about this crime, this tale. In other words, this entire tale is a world that includes the personal opinions of an observer, namely, the person who wrote that message in a bottle. In other words, the observer isn't God, it's a human. Therefore, there's no guarantee that this description is truly impartial. By the end of the first game, it was already clear that we've broken the constant premise of the mystery genre, that the story itself must be seen through the eyes of God. For that reason, it's possible to doubt even the observer, as well as the witnesses. If I could have doubted this much, then no matter how many seemingly unsolvable displays of magic appeared, I wouldn't have to blindly accept them and give up. However, that begs the question, is it even possible to solve a tale written by an observer who isn't impartial? If I get obsessed with this, all my reasoning will end here. However, I had to believe that Beato was trying to fight me through this tale. Because there's a fight, that means I've been given a chance of winning. By giving me that, doesn't that mean that reasoning is possible? This part is tough. Unless I believe that the cruel witch took on the risk of losing to try and have a fair fight with me, I can't get past this part. Just like Virgilia said, it's just like love. If I can't believe that Beato is fighting me head-on with everything she's got, I won't be able to reason any further than this. Sure, I'll acknowledge it. Unless we acknowledge that we love each other, we won't be able to get any further. When Virgilia ran out of patience with the two of us, shy and incapable as we were of acknowledging that out loud, she gave me the red truth instead. That was the red truth saying, Beato wanted me to solve it, so she made the riddles of this game solvable. What the hell? It's like Sato-san in Class A says he likes you, like hearing a love confession via a friend. I really am pitiful. Reasoning is love. If we don't love each other, the reasoning won't start. In that case, how can we say that we love each other? If you think you can solve it just you try, you're incompetent. Like hell you can solve it. Yeah, according to George Eniki, people like that are called Sundora. That brittle witch is finally starting to look a bit cute. If I meet her again, I want to try saying, "You're such a Sundora." If I meet her again, somewhere. Tell me the other parts of the Decalogue. I don't care about the order. Give me something that seems useful. There's too many of those names to keep track of. Allow me to speak. Nox is 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Allow me to speak. Nox is 6th. It is forbidden for accident or intuition to be employed as a detective technique. It must not be solved with clues that aren't presented, and it must not be solved by relying on accident or coincidence. This tale is made to be solvable. We can read this the opposite way. In other words, clues must be prepared so the case can be solved, and it has to be made in a way that it can be solved without relying on coincidence. If I can believe that Beato is challenging me to a fair game where reasoning is possible, then I can be sure of that. In other words, Beato has already left me clues, hints, and messages in this tale. It isn't from the Decalogue, but Erica or someone said this. There are 3 riddles to be exposed in a mystery. 1 is the whodunit. Who is the culprit? 1 is the howdunit. How did they commit the crime? 1 is the whydunit. Why did they commit the crime? All of this means that clues related to these 3 riddles are already present inside this tale. No, strictly speaking, it's like this. Because she wanted me to solve these riddles, Beato scattered hints about, though whether I'm capable of catching those or not is another matter. Even if you think a riddle you propose is easy, it might be difficult for the person trying to solve it. And tossing in magic doesn't help either. In that case, it's only natural that there would be a difference in how difficult each person finds it. Therefore, as Beato goes through each successive game, she watches me closely, and tweaks the game as needed to get a good arrangement. When Beato realized that I completely surrendered in the second game because it was too hard, she secretly worried. If I surrendered and lost the will to fight, the game would no longer remain on an even footing. Therefore, in order to make me regain my will to fight, from the third game onwards, she set things up in a way that made it easier for me, giving me tips on how to fight and a few hints. Regalia and Runaway obviously appeared so that they could help me. Also, though we still had the usual crazy magic shows, she gave me the metaphor of the brown tube trial, as well as tips on how to fight back. I finally understood how to fight, and most likely, at the end of the fourth game, Beato managed to have the all-out showdown with me that she had probably wanted. Then, Beato acknowledged that my abilities had become full-fledged, and entrusted me with her heart. Entrusted me with explaining this tale, didn't she? In that case, it was really dumb of me to boycott most of the fifth game, just because I was so disgusted with those two witches. It doesn't matter who the game master is. All I need is to search for the truth in Beato's game. On the contrary, I should probably thank those two witches just a little for continuing the game in Beato's place, now that she's gone and left everything to me. Of course, I doubt those evil witches were trying to do anything of the sort. Culprit, crime, motive. The answer to these three ultimate riddles, the hints, must be scattered throughout the previously shown tales. It's probably a very faint light, like trying to find beads that have fallen into a sandy beach. They're definitely there. However, they're so faint that, unless I believe strongly, there's no way I'll be able to find them. Please, allow me to speak. What is it? Go back through the tale. Know that you'll be given them as long as you don't lose sight of the truth's faint light. Right now, through this tale, know that for reasoning to be possible, a trusting relationship is required. Yeah, I know. In fact, maybe I finally noticed just now. It's something that's been repeated over and over again throughout the tale. Persistently so. Without love, the truth cannot be seen. Slowly, the tea room dissolved into darkness. Then, as though I was slowly sinking into a pitch-black sea, I passed through the crevice of the long journey I'd taken with Beato, and kept on falling and falling. It was a bizarre experience, like crossing over the boundary of sleep while still conscious. The several tales before became faint bubbles. No, were they small, shining fragments? And were scattered like stars amidst the pitch-black sky. I kept sinking on and on into that sea. Inju-san. I can't read that. That didn't help. The tales up until now, one after another, Virgilius guided Dante to Mount Purgatory, and brought him to the feet of the Eternal Lady who waited at the top, Beatrice. Therefore, the innermost depths lay not at the bottom, but at the peak of Mount Purgatory. The Eternal Lady had been waiting there for Dante the whole time. yeah, the wolves and sheep puzzle thing. And then I knew. I finally reached the truth. To the depths. No. To the peak of Mount Purgatory. Idiot. You really are an idiot. That hurts. He woke from the sleep of death, and bit by bit, his sense of pain came back to him. On Battler's face, which still looked up at the heavens as he hung there, pierced by the longsword, a suffering and alive expression gradually returned. You really are an idiot. A huge idiot. Battler noticed. This whole time, Beto had been snuggling up against him, sleeping. And when he held her, he knew that it was not Beto, but her crumbling remains. So, when Battler just tried to hold that form as fragile as ash, then, just like a sandcastle made on a beach, washed away by a small wave, it fell apart and lost its form. At Battler's feet lay nothing but the ragged remnants of Beato's dress and a pile of ash. No, on top of that pile of ash, he could see something sparkling gold. It was the husk of a single gold butterfly, which had been torn to bits. And so, Battler knew. I've definitely reached the truth. However, I wasn't able to do it, while Beato still remained in this world. Beato, you really are an idiot. Finally, reached the truth of this crazy riddle you've created. Just like you wanted. I didn't lose heart, and I finally made it there in the end. So why did you lose heart without waiting for me? You believed so strongly, didn't you? That I definitely reached the truth. So why? Why could you believe with me? And wait. You aren't the one who's been forcing endless torture on someone else. It's me. I've been the one putting you through such cruel torture. You resisted until the very end, and kept on protesting to me. And even though I've now finally reached that truth, to think that you couldn't wait any longer, and that it's all too late. You idiot! Why did you lose heart? For me, damn it! It's my fault. I forced her to endure this torture. In fact, she's been doing a wonderful job sticking through it for so long. Over and over and over again, you kept on protesting to me. And because I was so incompetent, it was as though I couldn't understand the truth. Idiot. Your riddles are too twisted. Why couldn't you say it more simply? Idiot. His scream of pain filled the sad cathedral. The sad witch who wasn't able to communicate the truth to Battler. The sad man who wasn't able to understand the witch's truth. Battler's howl of anger and sadness rang out for that pair. The clock hung in the cathedral showed that it was midnight on October 5th, 1986. Time was up. For everything. You're kidding me. Don't set something like a time limit on this difficult riddle you're so proud of. No. I understand. Even though there was such a faint chance of that miracle happening, you prayed for it to happen. You're just like grandfather. You prayed for and bet on the power of a miracle. One so unlikely that it was totally impossible. Less likely than finding a bead you've dropped on a sandy beach. And that means I've now truly arrived at that miracle. However, your time didn't last long enough. If I had reached this point even a little sooner, if I could have seen the truth, even if it had been right before time was up, I might have been able to save you. But right now, I've been run through pathetically. I can't even hold what remains of you. As I attempted to pull the longsword out, I tried stretching out my arms and kicking my feet, struggling to at least touch her remains, but nothing worked. Shit! Damn it! At that time, I noticed a golden glint on the palm of my hand. It was a single wing from a gold butterfly. That small fragment of gold was the only piece of Beto that I was permitted to touch. I cried with all my strength, gripped that fragment and pressed it against my head, apologizing. Why couldn't I reach the truth earlier? Then I pressed it to my chest, promising that even now I would never again lose the truth. When I pressed my hand against my chest, the sword piercing my chest cut my wrist, and blood dribbled out. That blood spread throughout my fist, and it must have soaked that gold fragment with my red blood. It must have been the only way of telling her that I'd found the truth she'd wanted me to know about. I clutched the wing of that gold butterfly with my freshly bleeding hand and pressed it against the red sword that pierced me. At this point, Ushirimiya Battler knows, and he understands. He's found this tale's everything. At that time, it seemed as though a faint golden light leaked out of the gaps of his clenched fist. The two witches had their backs turned, and Erika was laughing at Battler's corpse. That really is pathetic, Battler-san. I'll make your foolishness into a statue, and for all eternity. Huh? At that time, Battler's chest, no, the red longsword that pierced Battler began to sparkle gold from deep within his chest. That bright golden light began to change the red sword's color, turning it gold. What's going on? Battler is... What is this? Battler coughed up blood and groaned. His consciousness came back. His will to live, his will to fight, came back. The red longsword that pierced Battler could no longer be described as such. By now it had become a golden longsword. Then, slowly, gradually, it pulled itself out of Battler's chest. It finally pulled itself free and started dancing through the air. Then stood up in front of Battler's eyes as though it knew who its master was. Battler, crawling on the floor and moaning, grabbed the golden longsword, and though it looked painful, he slowly rose to his feet once again. This sure is an elaborate act. Is this one of your tricks, Lambda? Is that glow? It couldn't be. Lambda stared wide-eyed at that bright golden glow in awe. When she noticed that Battler's resurrection wasn't part of a script Lambda had thought up, Byrne also frowned slightly. Sorry, retrials will not be permitted. Siesta Sisters will eliminate this resurrection illusion. Understood. 45, 410, firing permission granted. It's unable to target. IFF error, code 999. 999. You said impossible. The Jester Sisters hesitated, unable to carry out Berncastle's orders. Lambda, what kind of farce is this? The illusion of the witch has been completely destroyed. The trial ended with our victory. Sorry, Byrne. You'll have to stick around a bit longer. Isn't that right, Ushurimiya Battler? Yeah. Sorry to keep you waiting, Erika. Berncastle. Now it's time for my truth. Request for a retrial accepted. The Assembly of Witches retracts the adjournment of the Court of Illusions. Objection! The trial has already been concluded, and the results have even been announced. Objection overruled. All verdicts are overshadowed by new truths. Objection! Not only has Battler been banished as a player, he also doesn't hold the rank of witch. He isn't qualified to call for an appeal. Objection overruled. He already does have that. By the name of Lambda Delta, Witch of Certainty, I acknowledge it. Ushurimiya Battler, I acknowledge you as the new Golden Witch. No, as the new Endless Sorcerer, Ushurimiya Battler. What did you say? Battler got the rank of a witch? The rank of a witch, which she had desired for so long, had been granted to Battler so quickly. And on top of that, this wasn't anything temporary. This was an official, proper authorization by Lambda Delta. Erika couldn't accept it, and her face turned bright red. Looks like that kid's game really will keep us entertained until the very end. Sure, I'll play along. Erika, you handle this. The red truth you've created with me is perfect. The construction of truth that makes Natsui the culprit is perfect. Battler certainly won't be able to break it. Of course, my master. There's no need to worry at all. Anyway, Jester Sisters, my master ordered you to fire, right? How long is it going to take you to carry that order out? Error code 999. An access code is required to target the territory lord. Yeah. I told you he'd do it. Yeah. Territory lord? Who is? Who controls this fragment? I do. Territory lord? You don't mean Battler is... Yes. Ushurimiya Battler has been authorized as the official territory lord of this fragment. Yes, that's right. So, you still don't understand? You don't know what that gold sparkle signifies? He's reached it. Battler has. He's made his way to the innermost depths of all truths. That means Battler's understood everything about this world, this tale, this game. In other words, he's reached the position of the game's master. I'll bet you don't want to believe it, right, Bird? Yeah, I don't want to believe it. Okay, I'll test Battler to see whether he really understands everything. Erika. Too bad, Erika. Just when you were finally appointed as the territory lord of this fragment, you've been deprived of that title. The new territory lord of this fragment is Ushirimiya Battler. Is it awful? Hey, don't you feel just awful? How's it feel to be deprived of that title just when you'd finally gotten it? How's it feel? Battler! If you think you can disprove my theory, just try it! It's impossible. Impossible. The theory I've created has no holes. It's impossible to deny that Natsuhi is the culprit. I can construct a theory with someone other than Natsuhi as the culprit. It may be that your truth is impossible to disprove. If so, that means your truth won't be able to deny my new truth either. Battler spoke with the red truth allowed to him by his status as a sorcerer. A culprit other than Natsuhi? How's that? Let's see where this illusion of Battler-san takes us. A real lady. Shit. Slowly, Dillonor stepped forwards. In her hand was the red longsword of the Decalogue. She also had a blue short sword. In Battler's hand was a golden longsword. The two rifles, once again, no, for the first time, they truly confronted each other. Wordplay. Battler. I've been waiting. Sorry to keep you. You did not. Your return was sooner than I anticipated. Kill him! Dillonor, hey Nox! Dillonor's form disappeared in an instant, as though her slow, dignified movements from before were only a lie. The curve drawn by the longsword of Red Truth burned itself into the retinas of those who saw it. Before anyone had enough time to follow that curve, it was already approaching Battler's chest. Lady Erika's reasoning has solved the fifth game. No new facts exist that overturn the truth created by this reasoning. It's possible to show a different truth by using a different interpretation. When multiple truths exist in parallel, the authenticity of both is questioned. In this closed-off world, it's possible for differing truths to exist at the same time. Furthermore, as long as multiple truths exist, it's impossible to claim that any of the truths are the single truth. In other words, even if I can't overturn Erika's reasoning by questioning its credibility and conquering it, I can defeat it. Burn's reasoning is perfect. You won't be able to overturn it easily. But still, if you can present a theory on par with Burn's, the fight will come down to a verdict. That means either one of the truths might be defeated and denied. What a laughable script. I'd expect nothing less from a demon's script. Then let me ask, what is this theory with someone other than Natsuhi as the culprit? Battler's golden longsword drew both red and blue curves at will. It's possible to construct it using the revenge of the baby from 19 years ago, the one from Natsuhi's confession. Nox is first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early parts of the story. A person first introduced in the fifth game cannot be named as the culprit. What if the baby from 19 years ago was among us since the very beginning? For example, what if it was me? Nox is 8. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Was there ever any foreshadowing showing that you might be the baby from 19 years ago? The red truth from the 4th game that I'm not the son of my mother, Asumu. The feeling that Dad was hiding something in both the 1st game and this game. In particular, in this game, it was made clear that there were some special circumstances having to do with my birth. Battler proposed that he might be the baby from 19 years ago, and announced that he'd reconstruct the crime with himself as the culprit. As Eleanor cautiously held her sword at the ready, she gauged the distance between them. Now that Battler had inherited the position of this world's territory lord, and attained the rank of endless sorcerer, his movements surpassed human understanding. By now, the physical distance between them probably counted for nothing. After all, their extremely agile battle was surpassing the point where the concept of distance made any difference. A good start. Let us hear your theory with Battler as the culprit. Yeah, I'll let you hear it. I'll prove that this explanation also works, and that you can't be certain that Natsuhi is the culprit. Ooh, that's some pretty good artwork. Gutta? If you're supposed to be the culprit, that creates several contradictions. I'll use those contradictions to reap your feeble truth. I, Furuto Erika, the detective and the Witch of Truth will... This time, Erika stepped forward. In her hand, there appeared a scythe like one in a Grim Reaper might hold. A ruthless scythe for reaping everything that threatened her territory. It's only possible for the crime to have taken place between midnight and 1. During that 1 hour, you were in the dining hall of the mansion. Therefore, it was impossible for you to commit the crime. It has not been specified that the time of death was between midnight and 1. Therefore, it's possible that the crime didn't occur between midnight and 1. There's restriction on any murders in the cousin room. From 1 AM until the discovery of the crime, it was impossible for any criminal action to occur in the cousin room. Eleanor, now! She's annoying this. Noxus 8. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. If the crime actually was carried out in the cousin room, clues must have been shown. Because clues were not given to the detective, Lady Erika, who was on the watch for any abnormalities inside that room until morning, such a crime is impossible. By the time the crime's discovery, you mean the point at which I let out a scream and everyone gathered there. Even if it was impossible to kill them before that point, it's possible to kill them afterwards. Yep. That was one of the theories I thought. He screamed. Erika ran to check her seals. Battler used the blue flash to deflect both of the red truths that Erika and Eleanor had flung at him. Erika's eyes went wide. After all, what he had said was completely absurd. At that time, they still hadn't been killed? Even the corpses with their necks sliced open were laying right there? The death of the four in the cousin room has been proclaimed with red text. Are you trying to use the illusion of the witch? Are you trying to resurrect George and the others using the concept of magic, even though they were dead at the time? I see. Since you believe they were dead by that point, it probably looks as though the dead have been brought back to life to you. So, this might look like magic in your eyes. In that case, I won't be the one to take the next shot at you. Fool. How often do I have to say it? The deaths of the four people in the cousin's room have been proclaimed with the red truth. Furthermore, those corpses were witnessed by a large number of people. Furthermore, it's already been proclaimed in red that no examination of any corpses would lead to a mistaken result. Take that, dead people! When was that red truth made? Have you forgotten, miss? The fierce shower of red was blocked by a magical barrier set up by Ranove, who suddenly appeared right in front of Battler. Now that Beato was gone, the demons shouldn't have been able to manifest themselves in the real world. However, he existed here, and calmly dealt with Erika's attack. You... Ranove, how did you get here? Oh, who cares? This all works out nicely. Now there's no need to go looking for you. I'll capture you here and deny your existence too. I'll leave it to you. Feature that you can't control everything with a single, arrogant truth. Yes, your majesty. Well then, allow me to be your opponent for a bit. What do you say, miss? In that case, when do you claim the Red Truth Death Proclamation happened? Are you saying you can pinpoint that? You can't pinpoint it, so you can't deny that the Death Proclamation was made at the time of the crime's discovery. That's a pitiful argument. When this court was opened, Lady Lambda Delta made a proclamation. She said this was a midnight answer session. The death proclamation was made at midnight on the second day. In other words, at the end of the game. That does not deny the possibility that the murder occurred after the morning of the second day, after the so-called discovery of the crime. Then you're saying that the victims were alive at that time? Even though their necks were sliced open? Did you see that yourself, Miss Detective? True, our current understanding is that no corpse will lead to a mistaken examination, no matter who performs it. But no rule named so far has prevented something other than a corpse from being called a corpse. Erika swung her scythe recklessly, but Ranove blocked everything with elegant gestures made with a shield on one of his hands. So at that point in time, no one was dead? There weren't even wounds on their necks? In that case, why did Battler scream? Better watch your feet, little girl. Ushimiya Kinzo is already dead at the starting time for all games. Huh? What? A pitch-black hole opened beneath Erika's feet and swallowed her up. She could probably see through to the other side of the hole. It's the same thing you'd see if you looked down out of the skylight and the ceiling of this cathedral. Leah! Yes? Virgilia could already be seen in midair inside the cathedral. As Erika fell from the heavens, Virgilia was right below her and caught her on the end of a divine spear that sparkled blue. Shouldn't you rethink your reasoning? Kinzo doesn't exist. Therefore, the way for the bodies to disappear in your theory is a failure. Correct. Unless someone other than Kinzo makes the corpses disappear, your theory fails. It's kind of obvious. This is nothing. Virgilia's blue divine spear skewered and pinned Erica in midair. Erica's throat was filled with hatred, but she couldn't get it out easily. Then, all around her, several small, fast things clinged off the walls and enveloped her. Hello, girls. Then, 7 people manifested themselves at once. We are the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. Know this, foe of our master. Holy paperweights. After George's death, his corpse was never moved. After Jessica's death, her corpse was never moved. After Maria's death, her corpse was never moved. After Rosa's death, her corpse was never moved. After Genji's death, his corpse was never moved. After Krause's death, his corpse was never moved. Therefore, the corpses couldn't have vanished after being discovered. Your theory about Kinja carrying the corpses away fails. But so what? Even without Kinja, I can explain how the corpse is Erica, I have to revise my theory? I do? The detective does? That's actually pretty good. Erica was probably capable of escaping this even with Kinzo's existence denied, by making a small revision to her theory. However, to her, having to revise the theory she had already created was extremely humiliating. Looks like you toyed around with your plan too much in order to corner Natsuhi like that. You played around too much with your reasoning. At this point, your master isn't the only one who can speak of Ginso's death with the red truth. This is what you get for playing around in the witch's darkness. Know that, Furuda Erika. Of course, even Erika had doubted Kinzo's existence from the beginning. However, it had previously been impossible for anyone to deny his existence in the trial, except for Burncastle and Lambda Delta, who had sided with each other. And because of the willful silence of those two, the truth about Kinzo had truly been unfixed. And yet, to think that Battler had become a witch, a sorcerer, and capable of using red without proof. However, she had her own Inquisitor of Heresy who could also use red without proof to counter. Nox is second. It is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. If you would show that Kinzo has died with the red truth, then I demand that you display proof of a human truth that could be used to make that point. Forgive me. Damn Geezer. Overcome it, Battler. Don't let my corpse stop you. Presentation of evidence. I'll present a corpse that could possibly be identified as Utsunomiya Kinzo's. Can you prove that this corpse is Utsunomiya Kinzo's? No matter how much it resembles him, unless you can prove that it is him, it is possible to claim that it was a substitute corpse from someone else. Can you show that it was Kinzo's corpse with the truth of humans? In this case alone, and with the red truth specifically, no counter-argument will be valid. No. Any counter of the red truth will be invalid. I guess that works. It may be true that the existence of third-party corpses has already been denied with the red. However, if saying that with the red is forbidden, the battler has nowhere to run to. That's right. In this closed-off Rakanjima, there is no objective way to show that this corpse is grandfather's. And that itself suggests the possibility that this corpse is a body double. This unidentifiable corpse cannot serve as proof of Kinzo's death. Checkmate. My theory does not waver. Dilliner had sealed off the red truth as a means of proving that Kinzo's corpse had been shown. Even with the power of witches, Battler couldn't argue back. How are you going to prove that the corpse is Kinzo's if the red truth is sealed? It's impossible. It can't be done. With the red or blue, right? I guarantee that this corpse is Ushimiya Kinzo's corpse. Then, when Dilliner met with Battler's golden flash, she was unable to fully block it with either her red longsword or her blue shortsword, and she was blown backwards into empty space. It was a direct hit, without any miscalculation. Though she had always seemed as firm as a small giant before now, she was finally blasted away and slammed against the wall as though she was the slender girl she appeared to be. Dilliner? What are you? A splendid gold truth. It is valid. Gold truth? The golden longsword, which had been drawing red and blue trails before now, finally drew a curve that retained its divine golden color. The truth it showed was neither red nor blue. It was gold truth. What is that? Lambda, does this follow the rules? Yes. The gold truth. Valid. The gold truth can only be used by the territory lord of this world. No. Only by the game master himself. What did you say? Gold truth. A divine truth woven in a different fashion than the red truth. Its strength is on par with that of the red truth. It may sometimes be inferior, but it is sometimes superior. Yeah. That glitter is proof that Battler-kun truly understands Meheto. I've shown it. Show that the corpse is grandfather's. Yes. Gold truth. Accepted. Unless Lady Erica's theory undergoes some revision, it will be destroyed. What the? I keep just picturing the voice actor in the booth doing that. Erica cried out in pain. It wasn't the pain of her body being pierced. It was the pain of her own theory being defiled. I see. It's like... And then there were no Ackroyds. Just when did this... What a crazy mashup of great words. Battler, it'd be excessively unrefined to say any more. Even without saying another word, you fully made your truth about the corpse's disappearance understood. I see that thing you're thinking of doesn't conflict with any of the red in this trial so far. Your truth based around the revenge of the man from 19 years ago had been completely understood and processed. I proclaim that your truth has now been established. What? What the? Why is that great lady on the Delta? He still hasn't explained everything. I still have many ways to argue back. Like Hideyoshi's close room, the seal in Natsuhi's personal room, and the button in the closet. Do you really still think you're capable of defeating Bowser's argument? Only Erica, the one who was supposedly so intelligent, couldn't understand. She couldn't understand that Battler had already reached the real truth. And because of this, Grandfather's absence has been verified, and the dishonorable relationship between Aunt Natsuhi and Grandfather has been removed from consideration. Aunt Natsuhi is pure and faithful. I won't permit this vulgar tale you're all so fond of. Battler-kun. Furthermore, because we've reached out about the time of death for all who have died so far, the alibis for everyone besides Aunt Natsuhi go back to square one. If you try to argue that the crime was impossible for everyone except Aunt Natsuhi, it won't work. Dillonor, who must have risen to her knees at some point, slowly stood up. The flash from the gold longsword was still buried deep into her chest. Though pain didn't show in her expression, her awkward movements clearly showed how serious the damage she had taken was, even though she herself knew that the match was long over by now. Dillonor didn't abandon her duty. However, in the cousin room, you witnessed corpses that were impossible to misidentify. Are you trying to say that was a lie? Noxus 7th. It is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. The detective is obligated to keep to an objective point of view. Your theory would mean you violated this obligation. Furuto Erica is the detective, and the me in this game isn't one. And by Noxus 9th, it is permitted for observers to let their own conclusions and explanations be heard. Noxus 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Until now, you have been the detective. Was it ever shown that you were not the detective this time, and that you were an observer capable of inserting his own personal ideas? Unless it was, you do not have the right to falsify your point of view. In this game, when I figured out the detective connected to the epitaph's riddle, I witnessed Grandfather. Advice. As has already been shown in red, Grandfather doesn't exist. It was impossible for me to witness him. Therefore, it has already been shown that my viewpoint wasn't objective. It is possible that it was just a sheet or something fluttering in the wind and rain, which you mistook for Kinzo. It cannot be used as foreshadowing to form a basis for Noxus 9. Mistaking one thing for another is a right permitted to all observers. There's the red truth that Beato showed during the 4th game. No person would mistake Ushima Kinzo by sight. It's the red truth Beato used to counter my blue truth claim that someone disguised themselves as Kinzo to make it seem as though Grandfather had appeared. In other words, on this island, all illusions that might lead someone to mistake something for Grandfather, including someone else pretending to be Grandfather, most certainly cannot work. All of Aunt Natsuhi's schemes to make it seem Grandfather existed were hidden in the relative's blind spot. All of them clever tricks like he was there just a second ago, or he is in the study alone now. They never tried to make anyone mistake something they saw for Grandfather himself, so there are no contradictions. If they had tried to dress one of the servants in Grandfather's robe, it probably would have been seen through in an instant. It had been guaranteed that none of the characters in this tale would mistake something for Grandfather by sight. If someone claims to have seen Grandfather despite that, it becomes a lie. Allowing lies to be contained within their observations is a right granted to everyone, except for just one person, and that person is the detective. Because of the right granted by Noxus 9th, anyone is allowed to mistake a sheet in the wind for something else and tell about it. However, mistaking it for Grandfather in particular is not permitted in this game due to the red truth. So, once you claim to have seen Kinzo, it is no longer misrecognition, but intentional. In other words, this proves that the observer was not objective, is what you're saying. In this case, unintentional misrecognition is not permitted by the rules of this game. However, It is possible to intentionally lie about seeing something you never saw, and that is an action not permitted to a detective who is obligated to maintain an impartial perspective. Forgive my crazy argument. It's all finished now. No, it's okay. Because men like you exist in this world, you will surely protect the fragile truth from any kind of pride. You will surely protect the real truth from the tyranny of any plausible truth that might claim to exist as the sole truth, and try to exterminate all fragile truths. Battler's golden longsword drew a massive blue arc as though splitting the heavens. I'm glad I could fight with you. Therefore, my perspective in this game is based upon the 9th, not the 7th. The fact that I claim to have seen Grandfather is proof. The noise that rang out across the cathedral was the sound of Dillenor's longsword clattering to the floor. Simply letting go of that was the same as resigning to the proud Dillenor. Though the blue trail Battler had drawn was aiming right for the top of Dillenor's head, it stopped a hair's breadth away. If it hadn't, Dillenor would probably have been annihilated, without leaving a single scrap of flesh behind. I resign. She's kind of interesting. I give up on denying your truth. I've paid my debt. Let honor be to your father. The Decalogue was neither arrogant nor judgmental. Honor to my father? Dillenor sat down on the floor and completely abandoned her will to fight. What are you doing, Dillenor? Lame, pathetic. You stupid half-wit murder doll. You've tainted the honor of your own father. Shame on you. You still call yourself Mystery's Wedges? Will you surrender to magic? The history of the mystery genre won't allow that. You're the one that doesn't understand what mystery is all about. If you see mystery as nothing more than a weapon with which to sneer at your opponent intellectually, I won't let you ever say so again. I'll present a truth that conflicts with yours. Aunt Natsuhi was threatened by a phone call over the internal line sent by the man from 19 years ago. Me. His goal was to make Aunt Natsuhi look like a murderer. From the beginning, this has all been a drama of revenge intent on framing Aunt Natsuhi. That's wrong. It's a drama of revenge against the Ushimiya family that Natsuhi thought up. Your theory outright opposes mine. You still can't pull out the blue spear that's sticking through you, right? Yeah, that's right. From Erica, I haven't heard of a single way for the corpses to disappear that doesn't involve Kinzo. Looks like your theory is about to be denied, doesn't it? This spear is just... You paperweights! Get out of my way! The deeply piercing blue spear on the 7 red stakes tormented her theory. They won't come out. They won't come out. I acknowledge the mistake in Erica's reasoning and the need for revision. What the... My master... Watching Erica's face contort with pain as she struggled to escape from the spear. Berncastle spoke this with a disgusted expression. Faced with the facts, Berncastle had acknowledged Erica's loss herself. Erica gazed at her master, who was no longer confident in Erica's own victory, with a mixture of shock and despair. I don't give a damn about your pride. How long do you intend to shame yourself like that? You, my double who's been granted the same blue hair as me. How long do you intend to hang there pierced through like that? I guess I'll just have to descend myself. Looks like I don't need a piece after all. What a pain, what a pain, what a total pain. I don't need a piece. I just throw it away. No, that disappointing, regretful, discouraging, hopeless letdown of a misfire. Do it quickly, filth! Didn't I tell you to revise that pathetic theory of yours? Yes, my master. I'll revise it. I'll revise my theory. As Erika's face twisted in humiliation, and tears streamed from her eyes, she withdrew and revised her own theory in accordance with her master's orders. Mumbling quietly, she made various revisions with the Blue Truth, had them acknowledged by Lambda Delta, and finally had the Blue Spear smashed and was freed. Though that Blue Truth did indeed explain how the corpses had disappeared, it couldn't conceal its desperation and was a bit of truly shabby reasoning. My master, I have taken it out. My theory is perfect. Are you kidding me? It's horribly pathetic. But I'll forgive you. Because your face and your theory are so lame, it's funny. Erika was taunted by her master, who wore an ugly expression. She thrashed about on the floor, crying bitter tears. The wounded Dilliner stepped out before her, as though shielding her, and she spoke to Burncastle as well as Battler. Regardless of how pathetic it might be, Lady Erika's revised truth is valid. Yeah, that's right. Regardless of my truth, yours can exist at the same time. That's what this world is like. No one can disprove them. So even if there are various truths, and even if they contradict each other wildly, they can exist at the same time. Here, as many truths exist as you can imagine. No one can just deny that all on their own. Yes, that is true. I won't let anyone deny Erika's truth. Dilliner. As long as I'm here, I will protect that truth. No matter how pathetic it is, I will not laugh at that truth. The words of Dilliner, whom Erika had previously looked down upon, led Erika to once again thrash about on the floor, sobbing. And, because no unique truth exists, everything is covered in darkness. They are pretty cool. Therefore, while both my theory and Erika's theory are impossible to deny, neither is a unique truth. They are vague, and while neither can be denied, neither is certain. Because there has been no decision, the illusion of the witch still exists. The only one who will be permitted to expose it is neither Erika nor the rest of you. It's me alone. I won't let anyone expose Beatrice's illusion except me. The verdict is revised. Because of the truth presented by Ushimiya Battler, Erika's truth is no longer unique. However, Erika's truth is impossible to disprove. Therefore, both of their truths exist together. The conclusion of the fifth game is rescinded. The game goes back to being even, and I transfer the position of Game Master for myself to the Golden Sorcerer, Ushimiya Battler. Ushimiya Battler, step forward. I appoint you as the new Game Master. Will you accept? You will, right? Do it, you new endless witch. Yeah, I'm the new Game Master. I'll weave the sixth game. Erika, let's settle things for good this time. Stand up. Yes, I will stand. I'll make you regret giving me a chance to clear away this shame. My master, please give me an opportunity to fight with Battler again in the sixth game. Sure. Of course, I'll give you a chance. Wow, incredible. She said, I'll give you a chance? Isn't this a miracle? From the Witch of Miracles, Burn Castle? Erica, you've miraculously managed to escape with your life. In the 6th game, Battler's game, expose the truth no matter what, unless you want to be tossed aside into the darkness of oblivion. Yes, my master. Eleanor. Of course. I will give it my all in the next game as well. I won't pretend to be a guest any longer. Together with Eleanor, I'll tear your game to bits. Sure. I'll invite you to my 6th game. Sorry, but that title of yours, Checkmate of the... isn't cutting it. It's your game. You can decide the name yourself. Just bring it on. I, Furudo Erica, am a detective before I am a witch. I acknowledge you as the new master of this game, and I issue a proclamation of war. I'll definitely expose it all. I'll kill you. Golden sorcerer, Oshurmi, battler. Yeah, come at me with all you've got. Furudo Erica. Just watch, Beato. I'll take charge of your game. And in this next game, I'll prove that I completely understand all of your riddles. Alright. Sustaf. Debug. I can't read all those that fast. But there we go. That would be the end of the fifth game. Action-centric fantasy mystery story. It's a hodgepodge mix of everything, man. For my fair opinion, and it's actually something I think is just kind of natural for visual novels to happen. They talk a bit too much. They explain things and keep hyping up words, even though they're not quite as powerful. Just a minor little pet peeve. I read Fate, which does that a lot. They sit there and hype it up, and then keep talking about things. But yeah, it's interesting. I do love the aspect that it's solvable. And it's a mystery, and I've been trying to figure out a lot of it as we go along. But it's so long, I can't remember all the stuff that's happened perfectly. So I can't tell you how it would work quite right for the other games. Umineko no Nakukoda ni Chidu. Nocturne of the Truth and Illusions. Hey, I got it in time. But defending the magic's existence. Addition of new features. The Golden Witch has prepared a gift for you in commemoration of your stay. You can find these new features on the title screen. But I'm enjoying trying to figure some of this stuff out and piece it together. It's... I'll say since the end of the fifth game, and I had my theory right up. I'll just show it to you guys. And did you read that? My theory was, and I caught wind of Rudolph's wanting to talk about Battler. I remembered that from the second game, or whatever that was, whichever one it was back then. And it's always stuck with me as a bit odd. I didn't quite know what it was. And then during the fifth game, Natsui was talking about a sin she committed, and a baby and such. And then on the phone, during the phone call, when she was getting messages from the dude, I could hear Battler's voice. I picked up right on that immediately, and everything just kind of clicked together. And I came up with the theory that Battler is the culprit and is the child of Rudolph and Natsuhi. Um, that was the thing I came up with. I pieced together Battler is the culprit and was the child of Natsuhi, but I had the odd part of Rudolph in there, mainly because he said, there's something we gotta talk about, and that stuck with me, and I bumped that in there. And one of the reasons I didn't want to quite explain it quite right until it was all sorted. But that would be a sin she would want to forget about, and she was desperate when trying to get a child with Kraus, and it might have happened. But I could pick out the voice, and that was big for me. I still got one other thing, though I'm not entirely sure I can reveal it now. It's kind of a stupid one, but it's an overarching one that goes through it. But yeah, it's. I think this will be a point to stop the show, but I'll keep talking about some of the theories and stuff. Who am I? It doesn't answer that one. My theory doesn't answer that question. But the obvious one, well, from the fourth game, it's getting hard to keep track of all these numbers. And then you toss Nox in the mix and numbers. Oh yeah, and then those stupid numbers written on the walls, or whatever, Angie's safe boxes. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but I like the fact that it can be figured out. Maybe I'd have to revisit it and look through it again. But give me a sec. The fourth game. Yeah, at the end of the fourth game, Beatrice had the truth that there's nobody else on the island. It's just Battler, and Beatrice is going to kill him. Logically speaking, since Battler's the only one there, and he was only killed by a person, it had to have been him. Or something else. I'm gonna. That falls apart as I'm thinking of it, but. No, not quite. That's a crazy theory. I'll toss it up, and that's likely one that'll be right at the end. And I am obviously not you. And that's the thing. There's been so much read, it's hard for me to keep track of all of it. Especially since I keep things in my head. I don't write things down or I look up references. And I can't really fully look it up because most things have all of the read, even ones we may not have seen quite yet. But but it's the truth. It can't be interpreted. It is fact. Right? I don't know. So, one asks, what are your theories on this stuff? But you guys have already read it and know what it's about. So I guess it's just down to me to try and figure this out. I'll talk about, if Battler is the culprit, then, part of it falls apart in some of the other games. I think, namely the first one, when Battler is always with people, and other people are dying, and they go and search for it. But again, it's been months, at least a month or so, well, many months since I've played that game. Jeez. And so from his point of view, it's all odd. And then there's the fourth game where everybody died outside of him seeing it. He was completely isolated from everybody dying, which is problematic. You're all alone on this island, and of course, I am not you. Yet I am here now, and am about to kill you. No sweat. Oh, you just typed it with an accent. No sweat instead of no sweat. But yeah, it's but it's and the one thing that I still am having trouble fully fitting together. It's the concept that they are separate games and they are different stories, but there are facts that transfer through them, like Kinzo is dead for all games. And if that's true for all the games, then some of the other truths could be as well, but they counteract each other, they overlap. Like, for instance, Battler's the culprit. Well, he couldn't have been the culprit in, say, the fourth game, because he was never interacting with anybody who died. And all that stuff. Look at Erika's profile. Furudo, Erika. Fell from the pleasure boat, Eternal Maid II, mid-cruise in the waters near Rakanshima. On October 4th, 1986, she drifted to Rakanshima, and the Ushima family welcomed her as a guest. She managed to drift to the island unharmed thanks to several miracles, including the fact that she was wearing a life jacket. See if she's, like, demoted here or something. Berncastle's double and servant, and also Peace, who is manifested in the human world. Because she is human, she cannot use magic and the like. However, she can appeal to Berncastle on a higher level plane to obtain miracles and various authorities she can use, so it would probably be no exaggeration to call her human, capable of wielding the power of a witch. Through Berncastle, she has been given the detective's authority while on the game board. Therefore, even though she is an outsider to the Ushima family, she possesses the right to demand full attention from everyone when speaking, the right to advance, blah 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 blah. She gets pleasure from the process of solving riddles, but her greatest joy comes from blah 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 blah. Yeah, and that's it. And here's Dylanor. And it's always the bodysuits. It's just weird. Questionable design choice, I guess, and just everybody has bodysuits. I don't know why. I don't know. What about? Oh yeah, execute. Yeah. Let me try that. It don't work. Oh, there we go. Apparently you can do it to Beatrice. The Beatrice on the highest plane, and the one who created this world. In the fourth game, she entrusted everything to Battler and abandoned her position as game master. She lost even the will to express herself, to say nothing of the will to fight, and is now little more than a doll. In the worlds of the game board, those who do not fight have no significance. Her existence has been growing insubstantial, and it will probably break down and disappear before too long. Let's bring you back. There we go. I think about people's hair and eyes. Actually, that's the hair is a big one for me. No real reason, but if you like change the color of your hair and like change the hairdo, I am completely lost. I have to take a second to double check to see if that's actually you. Even if you do nothing else, I've had people who just change up their hairdo and I have trouble recognizing them sometimes. It's weird. I don't know why. But yeah, hair is a big identifying factor for me. And it's something I tend to notice. Can anyone else be the culprit in terms of motive? Well, I'll answer that one somewhat. In the first game, when they made it very clear, and they said it a lot. Now I have to remember the quote. They needed a lot of money, and they needed it right now. Which was all the family members. All the adults needed money very quickly, and they were planning to do it. They all have a motive. that line has stuck with me. They said it, and they said it, and they said it, and they said it, which means it was important. And it's never been brought back up since, which kind of annoys me. It's just, why'd they do that? Because I know of techniques in some story works or a lot of behind the scenes commentary stuff I watch in movies. They talk about, okay, we needed people to pick up on this story point here, so we zoomed in on it. We had people talk about it. We said it a couple of times to make it sink in, so that they would remember at the end of the movie, oh yeah, that thing that happened. I still don't know how it can work out, but I know that it's a thing. And then the other thing that can anyone else be the culprit in terms of motive? The only other thing I can think of is the problem with anyone else being a motive is all the people die. This half dies and that half dies and everybody but Battler and so they can't be the culprit for all the games. The only one it can kind of be would be Battler, because I think the fourth game or so he was the only one left, which means he's the only one who could be the culprit across multiple games. But then there was the third game he was killed or something. I can't. They get all mumbled, and it's hard to keep track. Anywho, that'll do it for today. And that's actually my weekend. Taking off for now. So, yeah. Because they look nice. Ryukishi's either perfect or lost when drunk. Yeah, there is that, but again, it's just they all overlap, and it's hard for me to sort it out. But yeah, see you later, guys. Have a good one. Take care, and maybe come up with some answers later or questions to annoy me with to try and figure things out. Give me more red herrings. That'll definitely help everything. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one.